What up, YouTube? You seen the thumbnail and you seen the title, right? And first things first, rest in peace to Michael Craig, and condolences for his children. If anybody has a GoFundMe account um, that they know of, that's like the official one, please let me know. I might not be able to give much to that cause, but his children are forever without a dad, and I would like for everyone to, if they do have one, you know, um, just tag me in it, and I'm gonna do my research and I'm gonna make sure that it's the right one. Um, but yeah, prayers to his children. All my life growing up, like we had rules, right? And the older I get, the more that I see to where any oppressed group of people, no matter if it's men, women, children, um, in different countries, there's a different oppressed group no matter where you go. It doesn't always equate to black or white or, um, but when you're oppressed, like you create rules, right? Like when you know that certain situations are going to happen, you kind of, the community at large creates rules that they're not written down, but if you know, you know. And one of the things that I always wondered growing up, especially when I was a child, right? I lived in a complex to where it was kind of U-shaped. The Crips were in the front of the complex, and the Bloods were in the back of the complex. And we used to just see, fights, like mass fights breaks out. Everybody's fighting. Somebody might get stabbed occasionally, but they pretty much left the guns like at home. Uh, and I was wondering, like, and I asked one of the Bloods because they stayed in the back, like close to where we were, and I asked one of the guys, I'm like, why don't nobody ever call the cops, right? And he basically, it was a one-off answer where he was like, we don't need them in our business, right? Now, during that time, I never saw casualties, because people get beat up, they get jumped, they fight, they lick their wounds, and a couple of weeks later, if something else jump off, they back fighting again, but nobody died. Like I didn't see or witness anybody dying during that time. But the older I got, the more rules, that I know that our community goes by, right? And the first one is black people don't call the cops. Black men specifically, we don't call the cops. That's rule number one. Rule number two, if your girl called the cops on you, the relationship is over. Because she called another threat, and we know how it can end. And like this is before cell phones had cameras in them, because during that time when I was watching the Crips and the Bloods fight, you know, you know, my dad had one of them big flip phones that only the bottom flip out, and he had a car phone plugged up in his car, and he was paying for minutes, and how like all that stuff worked. Yeah, that was one of the rules then, right? And we all knew what was happening. We all seen what was happening, right? And then the third rule is pretty much, if you really do need the police, even though you will get charged with some kind of crime for this, if you need the cops and you want them to respond faster than what they've been known to respond to our type of neighborhoods, you lie and you say that a little old white lady hurt, and take the consequences, but the police will show up faster than what they would have, right? Now, these are the rules that I heard growing up as a kid into my teenage years, and we switched sides of towns. But the rules kind of stayed the same. One day, I came home one day, and my door was kicked in. Right? I got a cousin that lives around the corner. I called him. I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm at my house. I need you to bring one of your guns to me, because where my gun is in my house, if it is somebody in here, I'm not going to make it to, where my gun is, just in case somebody is still in here." So 5 minutes, he pulled up, and we go in, and they didn't steal anything that I noticed or that I valued, but my door was kicked in, and somebody went in there. They did mess up a couple things, but I didn't see them take anything. People wonder why it's so much crime. Some people they try to label it black on black crime, but it's really like a proximity. But this is why we don't call the police. This is why. Because black men know that when we call the police, it's a good chance. It's a good chance that we could either get hurt, or we could die, or we are the ones taken to jail. This is the reason why. Now, sad enough to say, if he would have put his hands on that woman, he would be alive today. He'd probably be in jail, but he will be alive. He would still be able to provide for his children. He would still be able to give his children counsel, spend time with his children, help his children, teach his sons things about growing up. He would still be here to do that. And it's bad enough. The kid went to the neighbor's house. The kid met the police outside, told the police what was going on. This is why. This is how the society has made black men react to the police officer. I mean, look, we even got our own set of rules with them getting pulled over. Especially where I'm from, when you pull over, you cut off the car, you put your wallet on the dashboard, you roll down the window, and you put both your hands out the window. And then cops come up, "Oh, you don't got to do all that." Yes, I do. I do have to do all that when I get pulled over. I do. We have rules that we spread around, that we put on Facebook. Hey, when this happened, do this. Because we just want you to be alive for the future. This man did everything right, and it still went all the way to the wrong, all the way left. He was calm. He called the cops, and whatever dispatcher that was on there sounded just as ratchet as any person I've ever heard. She was dismissive. She was unprofessional. I don't even know how she got the job. She probably, to be honest, depending on how she talked to the cops, well, I don't believe him. There's something else going on over there. Listen, this man was calm. His child ran to the next door neighbor. The next door neighbor called the cops. How many boxes of checking the right thing do you have to do to still be alive? And then when the cop talked to the kid telling, "My dad," and I'm paraphrasing, "my dad is being hurt by my mom. My mom has the knife." The kid told that to the cop before he even went inside the building. And then when you go inside the building, the man is on the floor. still getting stabbed. And then the police shoot the man. Sorry, my screen went out. It's supposed to stay on. And the police shoot the man. They ask the woman, is she okay? Listen, I'm not one of the guys that plays the victim card. I don't hang around with a whole bunch of criminals. I don't say free my homie when I know whatever they say he did it. I'm not one of them people. I don't blame racism for everything. I call things how I see it. And the one thing that I can say is, by and large, when you take the guns out of the situations, and that's usually for like some of the people that's like a little bit younger than me, when you take the guns out of situations, black men have been able to handle their problems and still walk away from it. I've seen people fight 4, 5, 6 times. Oh yes, I lost this fight, but wait till I see you again. We're going to fight again. We're going to fight till I win. Right? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but guess what? Everybody was still living. People still went home to their families. And nobody liked calling the cops for anything. Nobody liked calling the cops. When you call the cops, you're calling another threat. And the minute that the cops get there, it's pretty much whatever they say go. Right? They're in control. When there were no cameras, they could do what they want to do, and they could get away with it. And what's sick and what's really sad is, even though they have the cameras, they still get away with it. And then when they do get convicted, it's like some kind of slap on the wrist. If more black men felt comfortable calling the cops to a situation because they had faith that, okay, the cop is going to come here, he's not going to be biased towards my gender and my skin color, he's going to hear the situation out, and he'll make a wise, informed decision based on that, then maybe more black men will call the cops. Outside of work-related and accident incidences, whatever, I've never called a cop to handle anything in my life. And the problem is, I know a bunch of people that think just like I do, like I deal with it. Whatever happens from it, happens from it. I rather deal with it myself because there's a possibility that I can diffuse the situation to where we could all go home. We don't have time for somebody to come in, shoot first, and then ask questions later. Like we don't have time for that. If we fight, we fight. If I have to use a weapon, at least I know that I'm using the weapon as justly as possible. But America, like, this is something that the country needs to think about, because when we're calling for police reform, not defunding, but something got to happen. I don't know the answer, right? But these incidences don't just happen to criminals. It happens to innocent people. And that's the thing. If it's a criminal and they out there doing stuff that they don't have no business doing, okay, like, do what you got to do, right? Do what you got to do. The police are have the authority to do what they need to do in those situations, right? But what about the innocent people? What about the people, especially this, that you give them all the information? You have different people giving them all the information. You have a child that is coherent and smart enough to tell you what's going on. Meet you at the front door of the building before you walk in. And then somehow this man losing his life anyway. So not only was he tortured and stabbed, and then he lost his life at the end of it. So once again, rest in peace, Michael Craig. There's nothing really, there's nothing I can say about it. There's nothing I can do about it except for, I could give my money and then spread the word for the GoFundMe for others to give their money. Just to help the children out, and hopefully the person that's over that money will use it correctly. But these are the kind of things that have to stop. My culture been seeing it before the cell phones had cameras on them. A female cop brought my dad home one time because she witnessed him getting beat up by 2 white cops, and she brought him home hurt. She told us what happened, but she also couldn't tell him. The community knows that it's been happening, and it's 2021 and it still ain't stopped. This man should still be alive today. And for all the people that make up all the stories, the black men are so violent and they beat women. Listen. I know a lot of black men, thousands. There's probably only one that actually put his hands on a woman, and we handled that situation. But if Michael Craig would have defended himself and not called the police and dealt with the consequences afterwards, he may have something on his record, but he'd still be walking around today. Listen, like, subscribe, share, comment. If you think I'm off with what I'm saying, hey, we can cam up, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is to cam up with people that have a different view, and then we could talk about it. Or even if you have the same view, and then we could talk about it. But to me, I can only see this thing one way, with all the evidence that's out. I can only see it, and I don't care what he did, beforehand. That's before. If he cheated on her, she may be, okay, you have the right to leave. And I'm not saying that he did it. I don't have no information on what happened before. But it's like, if he cheated on you, leave. But after the phone call was made, and after the child saw, and this light bright. And after the child saw what was going on, that policeman and the dispatchers had all the information that they needed to make the correct, informed decision. But like, subscribe, share, email me, camuppodcast@gmail.com, and I look forward to talking to you.